Peekaboo. Ha ha ha. I see you. What's up?
How's everyone doing tonight, man? This fun. Was it Monday night now, man?
I don't know, bro, but I know that 2021 is flying. And
yeah, man, it's crazy.
I know all us nerds can't wait for 2022.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I can't wait for a week from Friday because, man, oh man, we are going to see Into the Spider-Verse live action style in just over a week. And that is why, boom, baby, Into the Spider-Cast, episode number 63 of this great podcast, episode 11 of season 2. It is PS Comics. I love you. And of course, I cannot do this without my cohort in crime. I am his Robin to his Batman. He is the Dark King. Also not JR Comics 42 on Instagram. JR Cabacungan. What's up? Right here. That is where if we actually got that Roadmaster that we talked about getting last year, I'd hit the button and there'd be some like applause or something like that.
Oh, dude. Oh, we're gonna get it.
We're gonna get it. We're this close, and then we started reading the Amazon reviews, and we're like, we're not buy on Amazon.
No. Well, like not for Amazon prices either. I think like Amazon, the recent one was like $700. I'm like, nah, we're gonna wait.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pay $700 and then have like the stickers peel off and be like, made in Taiwan. No offense to our Taiwanese friends. We do have fans from Taiwan. Sorry.
Yes, we do.
Hey, Marty McFly said it best. All the good stuff is made in China. Wait, was it China or Japan? I can't remember the line from the movie now.
I can't. Now we got to do now. We got to rewatch.
Back to the Future too.
Back to the Future. Yeah.
Such great movies. So good,
man. Good first time. Good first time, dude. But yeah.
I'm at Voice of Reason 2013. Oh, sorry. I was gonna let you introduce me, but go right ahead, my friend.
And of course, my cohort, my partner in crime here, not my Robin. He's actually the Superman to this. He's a Superman in this. What was it? In what's it called? That's not Public Enemies. It's what's the franchise? When Superman and Batman team up? Batman, Superman. The comic series.
In the comics or the movie? Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice?
No. There is actually a comic book series called Batman Superman. That's where you have one actually. I think you have a cover of I think it's Kara.
I think it's a Ryan Kincaid.
No. I think you have a cover of the late great Turner.
Oh, bro, you're right. Those were his epic epic covers.
I just forgot the name of the franchise. I just forgot the name of the actual comic book series that he did. But like that one when they reintroduced Supergirl, right? Which first came back again,
that's what the iconic Supergirl. All right, now you got me looking. Michael Turner.
I think Batman, Superman. They made a.
It was just called. I think it was just called Superman Batman.
Batman, but like there was another tidbit side name to it as well. But like
that's the cover that JR is talking about though.
That's it. That's the one, man.
There's a story behind that.
Yeah.
We went to a Comic-Con in Las Vegas in 2019. Story time before we get into we'll get right into the news and notes.
Absolutely.
So we're in Las Vegas. Amazing con, Las Vegas. Yes. By the way, I'm looking forward to going to next year. I'm hoping we'll get to go. Not 100% sure yet. Got to find someone who's going to watch the kids for a week. So anyways, we go. Lives up to the name. It's an amazing con, pun intended. And we're getting ready to leave. I think it's day number 1. It's a 3-day con. Walking out, and there is a oh my gosh, Michael Turner's company is not Fathom. Well, Fathom's the book.
Fathom's the book. It features One Year Girls too.
Oh my gosh, yes, COM. Oh my gosh, Kevin, you big dummy.
It is that time of night, my friends. It is that time of night.
So anyways, their booth. It'll come to me. So it's their booth, and they've got Michael Turner stuff everywhere. And if you don't know Michael Turner, and you're a comic book collector, shame on you. If you're a comic book collector and you're like, well, who's Michael Turner? Just type it into your CLZ or just go through, start searching through whatever database we use. I guarantee you have a Michael Turner book. Yeah. I had so many, and I just stumbled upon it because I just love the artwork. And it wasn't until I think this guy told me, he goes, "Oh, you got a Turner?" I go, "Yeah." When's he going to come to a con? Wah, 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 wah. Michael Turner passed away about 10 years ago from cancer.
Yeah, man.
God rest his soul. Arguably one of the greatest illustrators, bar none, period. No argument.
Man.
Anyways,
absolutely.
So we're leaving the con. Day one, I go, oh, you have my attention. I see some books I want. And I start talking to the guy, and they're kind of closing up shop. The con is technically already closed. And I said, I want that book. I want that package right there. How much you want for it? And there was two of them. There was two packages, and there was two of them that had that Supergirl cover on it, this iconic Supergirl. And there was two bundles. Both bundles had that common book in there. I want both of them. The guy goes, I'll make you a deal. What do you want to pay for them? And so we made a deal, and I think it was $160 for both for two bundles. And my wife's going, $200 for comic books. I'm like, $200, and I was getting I think I was getting 7 or 8 books in the bundles between the two, including 2 Michael Turner Supergirls. I come back the next day. The guy goes, I'm really sorry. I sold one of the bundles, but I will honor the deal. I will sell you the one bundle for half of the price that we agreed upon, which would be about $80. Yeah. And I think I ended up getting the bundle that had more books. I think it was like 3 and 4. I got I actually got the better deal. I got a sick bundle that had that book. That book, like a week later, went to nearly $200 by itself. Yeah. So I am forever grateful for that group. I can literally see the booth at San Diego.
Aspen Comics.
I will be a fan until I die. Aspen Comics, customer service from top to bottom.
Yeah,
the way they treat their artists, the way they treat their fans, the way they treat their creators.
Yeah,
you cannot beat their customer service. Sia Oum is one of the most underrated artists on the planet. She has a book out there that just finished its 3rd run last year.
Lola.
What's that?
Lola.
I actually think it's may have been more than that, but it did its 3rd big run. I think it's 6 volumes, but I think this last one was like its 3rd longest run. But you've seen, again, she's one of those artists. You've seen her work. Fantastic. Yeah. I will never have a bad word to say about Aspen Comics, but nonetheless.
But continuing from that, because I think how we got this conversation, Superman, Batman.
Yes.
I'm fine with being Batman. You can be Superman all you want.
Of course, you're the Dark King, dude.
Absolutely. But yeah. Again, just to say Aspen Comics, great. They got me some deals too. I will say I messed up. I got the exact same cover. I traded like 2 years ago to a friend of the show. You know who you are. You will not be named because I will be pissed off. I traded that, but it was a great deal at the time. And then I went back. I went to Aspen Comics again the next following year, wanting the exact same book. I go there. I go to them like, hey, you still have this cover out? They show me one, but it was it wasn't bad, but it was like one of those covers. Me, I'm a perfectionist in this certain way. I'm like, you know what? I'll wait. Next year happened. COVID happened. And, and that's when it jumped. It was like, crap. I should have got when this happened. That was like $200, $300 book now. So it's kind of crazy.
It's gone freaking nuts. By the way, real quick, for those of you who are watching, no matter where you're at, comment in the section, leave us comments in the section below, whether it be on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Twitter. I believe all the comments come right here into the PS Comics I Love You studio. And don't forget, if you're feeling saucy, give it a hashtag PS Comics I Love You so we can track you and spam you with stuff. I'm just kidding. We wouldn't do that. We're just stupid.
And for those that have been asking, yes, my room has been a mess right now. I was doing laundry, and then I got my laundry from. I'm doing my covers, so my laundry. I literally flung it on the bed, and we had to do the podcast. So here we are. How y'all doing? But yeah, continue on the show, man. It's been quite a week, my guy. It's been quite a week. This as we said before, We're getting back to swinging things when it comes to cons. There has been an overabundance of new trailers and first looks that have been blowing through the pop culture landscape, like the winter winds this past week, my friend. Comic Con season has been slowly coming back with well-known conventions like STCC, San Diego Comic Con,
Special
Emerald City.
edition.
Oh yeah, special edition. Emerald City Comic Con, which is in Seattle, Washington. LA
That was
Comic Con,
this
which
past weekend, or that's this coming weekend?
I think it happened already. That's the
Yeah, I
thing.
think
It
it was this
happened.
past weekend.
Yeah, it happened already. Past LA Comic Con, which I think just ended today, if I'm certain,
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch more that have been holding on. I personally have been to Rose City Comic Con in September, and that was great. Thankfully, holding in this first time they've been holding in-person attendance for the first time since the pandemic era has ascended and halted the world. Thankfully, these conventions bring with them the things we expect when adults and children from all ages, ourselves included, uh, come to find when trying to escape for a little bit the harsh reality of the last few years. An exciting look at what to come from our favorite superheroes, return to a familiar normal, and all that beautiful, beautiful loot one can get from all those amazing vendors. With that, here's some news to get our childlike hearts excited for things to come for this foreseeable future. My
Yo,
friend, how do you feel about Harry Potter?
here's the thing.
Yes.
I have attempted to watch Harry Pothead and the Sorcerer Got Stoned. Oh wait, sorry, wrong show. No, I have attempted to watch Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone from beginning to end for 20 years and have never completed it. I have never fully 100% completed the Harry Potter series.
Hmm.
I believe a new family holiday tradition is going to be upon us here
Good.
in the Pillow household. I do believe there will be a 7-movie. Was there 7 or 8 movies? I can't remember.
7.
7
7.
movie marathon sometime in the near future. I don't dislike Harry Potter. It's not one of those like I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch it. I would watch the Marvel Cinematic Universe from beginning to end over and over again. I don't know why. I just can't get myself to watch Harry Potter. Again, it's one of those movies. I'm not against it. If someone were to say we're going to stop showing Harry Potter movies, I would protest and say, no, don't. They deserve to be in the geek culture. It's not one of those that I like, all right, we're going to sit down and we're going to watch Harry Potter. But I think my wife will probably convince me somehow, some way to watch them sometime this holiday season because, like JR hinted at, we are less than a month away from the reunion.
Yeah.
And it will be live, well, not live, but it will be on HBO Max.
Yep.
And this will mark the first time that Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Stone have all been, did I say that right? Emma Watson, I apologize, not Emma Stone. But I just watched Amazing Spider-Man the other day, so I got it on the brain. Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson will be in the same place since the premiere of Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Part 2, which clarification there is 8 films, not 7, 8 films.
So 7 books, 8 films. You're correct.
Yeah.
You are correct. This will be the first time that the 3 of them have been in the same place at the same time talking about Harry Potter since the premiere of Deathly Hallows Part 2 and will mark the 20th anniversary of the premiere of the very first film, which of course was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, all the way back in 2002. I apologize.
Yep.
It is set to release on January 1st, 2022 on HBO Max. Other appearances will be Bonnie Wright, Ivana Lynch, Gary Oldman, Helena Bonham Carter, and much, much more. Unfortunately, there will be 1 or 2 characters, but one specifically that will not be there, and that will be the great Alan Rickman, who played, of course, Professor Snape. It was as if I remember my sister reading the books and seeing the small illustrations that they had put into the J.K. Rowling's books. And when I saw the movies, and I knew Alan Rickman from obviously not Die Hard because I've never seen Die Hard. I knew him from Dogma, who he plays the cherubim. He plays I can't remember the character, but he played it fantastically.
Metatron?
The Metatron. Alan Rickman is so underrated and just a fantastic actor, and his comedy timing is incredible. And him as Snape was so good because he just played just such a dark dick. So, but anyways,
it was good. It was good,
now
man.
you were a Potter fan, I would assume.
I mean, I have actually watched all of the movies, all 8 of them, in my time. I think it has been a couple of years since I watched Deathly Hallows Part 2. I think possibly a good 6 years since I've seen that one. Maybe the last film came out. The last film came out, I think, in 2012, if I'm
Something like
mistaken.
that.
Yeah, because the original, of course, came back in 2001. I forgot
Was
exactly
it
the date.
2001 or 2002?
2001.
It was one. Okay.
2001, man. And so I forget exactly the full date of it, but yeah, it's such the whole thing's set to premiere next year, the first. I did watch the whole thing, and I enjoyed it. There has been, of course, been some low points. There's some low points. I didn't read the books per se, but I did watch the full movies. That got me into Rupert Gint. That got me into Emma Watson. That got me into Alan Rickman. Even my boy, he plays, of course, he of course plays Dark Knight. The Gordon.
Oh, Gary Oldman.
Gordon. Gary Oldman's in the film. He's the uncle. He's the uncle. I just more so. It's been a minute since I watched it. I'm not a full-on avid fan, but I have watched them all. I think it tallies around 8 hours, 10 hours or so, something like that for the full thing, for each movie. Not each movie, but like the whole series, about maybe somewhere between 8 to 10 hours. Great film. Really ahead of its time, and not really ahead of its time when it first came out, because it was just something that was just like kind of blew off everything up. Like I think the first film did like $1 billion in its entirety. It's insane, dude. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I will definitely be watching the special 20th anniversary special. I will say there has been points of contention though not to kind of spoil our fun here, but there has been points of contentions. How do you feel of them not inviting the author?
See, I don't know. I don't know the whole. I have a feeling I know why.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it probably has to do with her opinions about transgender.
Yep.
And it's really unfortunate. This is not a platform to get into trans rights and whatnot. But it is unfortunate, but I can understand why they didn't, because they don't want to distract from because I think if you invite her, you have to address the elephant in the room, and they're not going to, and it's just going to create a shitstorm. And I think that JK has to understand it sucks. She's the one that created it.
Yeah,
but I think
she knows though. I'm pretty sure, not to cut you off here, but I'm pretty sure she put out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she put out a tweet about it saying that she's not being invited, but I think she understood why. Granted, as as someone who writes myself, and as someone who is deeply enveloped into their works, I hope they give at least a nod to her, because like this is the woman quite literally made each and every one of them a millionaire. I think it's been touted that that Daniel Radcliffe, who had quite literally after the series hasn't done really anything of note, but doesn't need to, because I think he's worth like $100 million.
Yeah, he will be. Yeah, he can retire. I think he did an episode of. Oh my gosh, we're so bad on names today. Oh my gosh, the British variety show. It's like the British version of Johnny Carson.
Oh yeah. I know which one you're talking about. A lot of famous individuals they go on his show, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. But him,
anyways.
Yeah.
But Graham Norton. Graham Norton, he's been on Graham Norton numerous times, and he's talked about like he could stop acting today and be like done on Harry Potter residuals for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. I mean, he has been more a lot of indie projects. I think that the one person who has catapulted into fame has been Emma Watson for obvious reasons. She is a fantastic actress. I don't think that I don't want people to assume solely based on her look. She is an attractive female, but she is a good actress and is catapulted that into other things. I have to say that Beauty and the Beast was a letdown. I was really looking forward to it. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that when you do a live action version of a stuff, when the gamble you take of doing a live action version of an animated feature like Beauty and the Beast, which was you had the voice actor and you had the singing actor, and again, spoiler alert for those of you who didn't know, when you used to watch The Little Mermaid, there was an actress who did the voice of Ariel. And then there was an actress who sang for Ariel. That wasn't the same actress. Sometimes it was, but for the most part, it was two different actors and actresses. Emma Watson attempted to sing like Belle. God bless her for trying. It didn't work. And it kind of ruined that movie for me. But nonetheless, I will be watching this. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And you should too if you have HBO Max. And shame on you if you don't. It's probably, I think HBO Max might be pound for pound. And we're going to do a streaming episode. People have been asking us to do like a streaming episode on like all the streaming services. We are going to do a Disney Plus, I think just a lone Disney Plus show. But I think HBO Max, Disney Plus, probably the two best pound for pound streaming services.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, speaking of HBO Max, and the reason why it is worth your while is the big release for this month for HBO Max. For those who don't know, this time last year, Warner Media announced that in 2022, actually beginning on Christmas Day of 2020, but going through all of 2021, and it looks like it's going to be going into 2022, that on the same day as a theatrical release, they were going to release that same movie for free on HBO Max. And of course, it started on Christmas Day of 2020 when they released Wonder Woman 84, which I actually really enjoyed. I might be the only person on planet Earth who thought it was better than the first one.
Wow.
And it continued on, of course, with Kong versus Godzilla and all kinds of other stuff that went on throughout the year. But it will continue on the 22nd of this month when we finally get to see Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss return to The Matrix. Matrix Resurrections will be out on December 22nd on HBO Max. And JR, I'm looking at your notes. There is an actress who is snuck her way back into this cast that is a fan favorite of mine. She is one of my, she was my Woman Crush Wednesday a couple of months ago. Jessica Henwick from the Marvel Netflix series, who played, oh my gosh, I just completely drew a blank on her name, but
she was in a, you say it,
but she was in Iron Fist. She also crossed over into the Defenders, and I believe she made an appearance in Luke Cage and may have made an appearance in Daredevil as well. Great cast back. I never saw the third one. I saw the second one. The second one left kind of a bad taste in my mouth. You.
I mean, I know we had pregame. You said that your initial feelings of the resurrection of Matrix Resurrection.
The original Matrix, I think, should have stood by itself.
Okay,
should have just left.
I agree.
Mind-blowing film. The effects that they use to this day are still being used. It is one of those groundbreaking films that pardon me. I'll give you a list of movies that have still influenced to this day. Abyss, all the way back in the 1980s. Terminator 2,
of course.
Jurassic Park. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Well, Terminator 1 was a Terminator 2. James Cameron. If you don't do Abyss, you don't do if you don't do the Abyss, you don't do T2. If you don't do T2, you don't make any movies in the 1990s. You don't do T2, you don't do Spawn. And Spawn was a visual masterpiece for its time. Okay. Original Jurassic Park. and then also Inception. Inception has, if you really think about it, Inception has inspired a lot of filmmakers and style. Christopher Nolan has inspired a lot of filmmakers, but at the same time has also pissed off a lot of filmmakers. And there was an article I wanted to share on our Facebook page about how he is. If you ever watch a movie and go like, I can't hear the dialogue, and then the next scene's like, oh god, they just blew something up. Holy shit. So you can blame mostly Christopher Nolan for that. But I think The Matrix belongs on that list for groundbreaking visual effects and being able to tell a story from a visual standpoint like that and not get bored and lost.
I feel like just to talk about a little bit on Matrix, right, and Resurrection. I for one actually am super excited for it because it looks like it's somewhat trying to hold to the original in that sense. What I do feel like with most sequels, even in today's age, is that all the questions that were asked in the first film need to be answered in the following films. I think that was the point of contention. Like, because like if you remember correctly, like they talked about Zion in the first film. They talked about what's the Matrix. They talked about being held in a box in a cubicle, especially in a time in the 90s. I think in the late 90s, early 2000s, where it was very much it feels like you're just a number puncher, you're just a statistic. And the Matrix, again, holding on to very Zen philosophy and Hindu philosophy, even, and Eastern philosophy, is that they really asked about, well, what of the self? Are you truly awake? And that was very awe-inspiring for its time, even still today. In the second and third film, you had to answer those questions, and those answers weren't that great. They were there. They were answered in biblically, I mean, not biblically, but like religiously. They've been trying to follow through with that. It stumbled through the finish line, but at least it finished for me. What I will say with Matrix Resurrection is it feels like it's a callback to it. I'm hoping it's a callback to it. Some people have said, I think you may know of it too, that it looks worse, quote unquote. I will say the reason why, people have been saying that it looks worse in the sense of like the action scenes don't look as great or as crazy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, again, it's going back. It's that sequel mentality.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to. I want you to explain though why some others may think it doesn't look good, because you do make a good point when you brought that up. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, the main reason why is because they're using higher camera films where like it can capture 60 frames per second. It can capture up to 120 frames per second. Majority of the old Matrix films were shot in 24 frames per second. If for those that don't know that, or like aren't really privy to it, like look at your TV, right? Have you ever had a setting on your TV where like the motions looks like it's real life and you hate it? And my sister hates it. I'm for one, I'm trying to get used to it, but like it's the type of thing where like there's more frames running per second, and so therefore it looks more fluid. The movie or the TV show looks more fluid, but it loses that. It does lose that picture-esque quality of like of movie making. It just looks more quote unquote real because people are moving in a faster motion when really it's just that they're just adding more frames to it. It has been done tremendously through previous films, even throughout the last year or so. I think one of the better ones was Justice League, the Snyder Cut. They do it pretty well. Another one, two aspects is some of the Eastern or some of the Southeastern. There you go, Southeastern action movies that use it tremendously. It looks bad because the people who are the actors and actresses that are playing them don't know how to fight.
Yeah, that's true too.
I got love for Jessica Henwick, but like, and she is probably one of the more well-rounded fighters in that cast. But yeah, it does look worse for wear. Granted, Keanu Reeves is in it, and Keanu, if he was younger, if it was Keanu from 20 years ago, or actually now, 20 years ago, he would look tremendously well. But of course,
whoa,
yeah, he aged. He aged quite a. He's aged now, and Carrie Ann Moss is aged, and so they got a little bit, it's a tougher time to get around. I will say it does look worse because just basically they're shooting at 60 frames per second, which it looks fine to me. What?
The problem that I have with it is, again, it's one of those movies that it was so good, we have to make a sequel. And it almost just didn't need to. It should have just stood on its own. because all you were going to do was, because if you ask people what made those movies great, what
Yeah.
made those um uh what made those films great, what is what pretty much ended up being the downfall of the new stuff. The special effects. Okay,
Mhm.
I'll use for example why I don't like the prequels for Star Wars. It's done on digital. It's almost too clean. It's you. There's a scene in episode 2 where like they do like a digital zoom, and I'm like, you couldn't do that in 1977. What makes you think I want to see it in 2000 or 2002 in the new movie? And I know that George Lucas has the right to do whatever he wants and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But to me, I loved the grittiness and the um, for a digital movie, for a super visual effects, because of course the whole super slow mo basically that
Mhm.
inspired the Zack Snyders of the world
Mhm.
um, is that's what made the Matrix. The killer soundtrack,
Mhm.
the I don't know, I lost my notes here. Shoot. Um, the killer soundtrack, the visual effects, and then they did the sequel, and it's like it's one of those deals where like, okay, you made this movie. This For those who don't know, The Matrix was basically an indie film. It really was. It was a studio financed independent film, if that makes any sense. Um, and it just exploded, and they went, okay, here is 4 times the amount of money you got to use on the last film. Now make a second film. And so was it with the Koski brothers,
Yeah.
which
At the
are
time,
now
Wachowski.
the Wachowski sisters. I don't know. The they were given so much money that they just let's just go crazy, and it lost it lost what made it great, I guess you'd say.
Mhm.
And again, it goes to a lot of sequels that are that way. It's one of the reasons why I didn't care for the latter episode. Like I'll use for example the when TV shows that started in standard definition and then like halfway through a series, high definition came around and
Mhm.
their studio went, guess what? We're gonna buy you some new cameras to film your show. And it's like, no, you know what? The show was better in standard def. It was almost. I don't need it to be crisp and clean. I need it to be down and gritty and stuff like that. The show Entourage, it got shittier as it went along because they went into high def. To me, that's kind of what I have the problem with the Matrix. The Matrix was
Mhm.
a visual stunning film that almost became too visually stunning. That it was just like, okay, I've seen this before. Um,
Yeah,
and
sure.
and it,
There,
and
there,
it,
there,
it
there-
lacked a little bit in storytelling.
I mean, there's
And
some to have a little bit of pushback though for that, but like even with that case too, like for Matrix, it's the entirety, right? The trilogy has
yes,
set
sir.
forth this standard of visual storytelling. Because without Matrix 1, 2, 3, quite honestly, we wouldn't have Civil War.
True.
We would not have Marvel. We wouldn't have Captain America 2. A lot of these the effects, like I
Oh,
understand where you're going with this point, but like the only pushback I have is that they push modernization today. And granted, I can accept that. You know, you like dislike what you want.
yeah.
It's just more so it's weird for me. It's to harp on one thing, right, for pushing a certain modern standard and for it to push that way and then accepting it in like another vehicle, right? All the entirety of the Marvel franchises, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's like bro, like that's the originators. Like the
True.
Matrix trilogy are granted, yes, I did fucking hate the scene where you see Neo CGI fighting against 500 agents, right? That was terrible, that was horrible. At least they should have had a lot more scene with that, right?
Yeah.
But with that scene, we have every possible awesome gigantic fight scene, especially in Endgame. the whole Endgame scene is with bits and pieces coming in, sure, are all CGI. Like the majority of that scene is just CGI. The Endgame scene of the fight scene, and so like I get it, understand. There's certain things that should have been better, but I do feel like uh not to clarify, not to try to chastise your point or anything, but I do feel like it's one of those like, oh, dude, are we becoming those old men, or like, oh, back in my day, I'd rather have it this way type of thing.
I am the get off the damn lawn guy. I'm sorry.
Like it was better when it was like this. And like, oh shit, are we those guys? Are we turning into those guys now? Because I see myself that with comic books too now. Like, fuck, am I that guy now? That's well. But again, your point still stands too.
Yeah.
You are a bigger connoisseur with Entourage than I am. I have yet to see one episode in its entirety, so I'm pretty sure
it's funny.
Yeah.
Again, available on HBO Max. We're not shilling. But so anyways, I will always say this.
Yeah.
I take the Kevin Smith approach to it. Kevin Smith did a panel at New York Comic Con probably about, I think it was shortly after, I think it was right after Justice League or Dawn of Justice came out. You know, it was right after Batman vs Superman. It was at New York Comic Con, and he said, someone asked him what he thought, because he hyped it up so much because he got to see, of course, the original screen test of Ben Affleck as Batman, who, by the way, I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you want to say I lose credibility in the comic book world because I think that Ben Affleck played a good Bruce Wayne / Batman, then that's your opinion. Just like your opinion is to say that Kevin Conroy played the best Batman or whatever. Who cares? That's why we do podcasts like this, is why we collect comic books. I'm not saying that Ben Affleck was the best Batman. I still say that might go to Michael Keaton. It might even go to Adam West. But Ben Affleck playing the role that he was cast to play, which was an older Batman, I think he was fine. Anyways, Kevin Smith's comment was, we're in this, I'm paraphrasing, but in this industry, we're allowed to bitch and complain. You know, that's what these movies are made for. Or people say these movies are made for people to bitch and complain about, but they're really not. They're made for comic book fans. They're made for fans. And yeah, we're allowed to have an opinion. We're allowed to like them. We're allowed to dislike them.
Yeah.
But to shit on something, to wish that, you know, when you start saying like, oh my gosh, I wish they would just stop making those movies. Guess what? They'll stop. They will flat out stop. And Kevin Smith was telling this audience, he's like, listen, if you keep saying like, oh my God, if Zack Snyder keeps making DC movies, I'm never going to watch again. Guess what Warner Brothers is going to do? Fuck you. I can save my $250 million per film and not make Batman and Superman movies anymore. They'll do it. They'll do it. And so Kevin Smith's like it, dislike it. Who gives a rat's ass? Just have fun. It's stupid humor. And I think that's what helped me going into Venom, was I was just like, turn off all the haters. I don't care. I went in. I get it. If I was an avid Venom reader, I'd be like, oh my God, what did they do? You know, damn you all to hell. And I totally agree with you, JR. If I was a diehard Venom fan and loved Danny I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. We're shitty on names right now. Donnie Cates.
Yeah.
Or was it McFarlane that created Venom?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was he technically drew Venom. So
anyway, I get it, guys. I get it. I enjoyed the movie. I kind of like Tom Hardy. Olympus Has Fallen was a shitty movie, but I had fun for an hour and a half. I didn't give a crap. They blew crap up. They told a half-assed story. It was fun. And I didn't, when I watched Olympus Has Fallen, it didn't cost me any money. I watched it on Netflix or something. But I've tried to take more of the Kevin Smith approach too. And that is, it's dumb. They're comic books. They're movies based on picture books, people. Fictional characters. If I can quote, I think it was Jane Silent Bob Strikes Back. I'm on a Kevin Smith rant right now, but I don't know where we were going with that. Enjoy Resurrections. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of, what's up? You want to?
Yeah, I want to pivot into this one.
Okay, you do it. I was
I
going to do
need,
it
I
for
need
you.
to, no, no, it's fine. And this one because I actually technically kind of broke this right on our podcast. A bit for a brief bit of clarification, as we talked briefly about this in our recap of episode 3 of Hawkeye, which you guys should check out.
Now available on all podcast platforms. I just uploaded it.
Nice. There has been news that have confirmed that a prequel of the popular HBO series Game of Thrones had been shelved. This is true, but thankfully, it is not the planned sequel, House of the Dragon. Like my dumbass said a couple of days ago that it was House of the Dragon.
And I also didn't. I will throw myself under the bus. I was the one who actually verbalized they canceled House of Dragons, which of course led to JR confirming.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's
it's fine. Thankfully, it is not that, because House of Dragon is set to release sometime in 2022. The actual clarification is that the whole news broke out because it came from an interview from the James Andrew Miller book for his book Tinderbox HBO Ruthless Pursuit of New Frontiers, that he actually got an interview with Warner Bros. With ex-Warner Bros. Media chairman Bob Greenblatt about a canceled Game of Thrones spin-off series, and about the events of the book that detail the long nights and age of heroes. As a quote from the book came from as Bob Greenblatt has been quoted to say that they had spent over $30 million on a Game of Thrones prequel pilot that was in production when I got there. And I saw a cut of it in a few months after I arrived. I said to Casey, someone who's worked on the show, on that pre-planned show, that it just doesn't work. And I don't think it delivers on the promise of the original series. And he didn't disagree, which was actually a relief. So, yeah. There has been a number of prequels that have been announced for Game of Thrones in the past, I think as early as 2017, maybe even 2016, right? Because they've been trying to plan out, like, okay, when is George R.R. Martin going to finish the actual series, which he hasn't. I think he's still working on Winds of Winter, which was supposed to come out last year, but then it didn't. So,
and it's what led to the hastily rushed last season of the show, because they were waiting on the last book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, granted, like the first book he did was quite literally like 30 years ago. It's been quite a while since the Game of Thrones series came by, and so it wasn't until the recent decade that Game of Thrones has shot to the crazy prominence that it has today. But again, there have been a handful of prequels that have been planned in the Game of Thrones series in the past. One even had Naomi Watts starring in a series that took place thousands of years before the original series, but that too was ultimately shelved. So it's not a new thing that a sequel has been canceled. A prequel has been canceled. But just to think, man, $30 million
on one episode.
On one episode, and then they're like, nah, it's not good enough, right?
Let me clarify. When we broke this story,
earlier
this week on the bonus episode, the Hawkeye episode 3 episode, I had asked JR that they canceled House of Dragons, and he said yes. And again, it was just misinterpreted. And he said, yeah, $30 million was spent on that season. We thought it was an entire season because it was $30 million. And I'm thinking, well, first off, $30 million still seems a bit light for a Game of Thrones level series, but not too light. Yeah. But when I read the story that it was $30 million for a pilot, I was like, now that's excessive.
Yeah.
And yes, I would pull the fucking plug on that too.
Granted, too, I think in the final season, right, I think they spent like around $4 to $5 million an episode. And granted, the last season had about 6 episodes regardless, right? I think 6 or 7. Like every year since season 6, right, they've been slowly cutting down per episodes, right? Because just the high cost of production. They're constantly going from like Spain to different parts of Europe. I understand that, right? But like, dang, $30 million. I'm happy though that the film that the series that is set to premiere in 2022, and of course, just saying that it's going to feature Patty Considine, Olivia Cook, Matt Smith, Emma Darcy, and a bunch more people set to play the ruling council of the House Targaryen during the reign of King Viserys Targaryen. That's the film line, or that's the timeline that they're going for. So I think that's 30 years or so before the events of the original movie, if I remember
of
correctly.
the original
I'm
series.
not. I don't know about exactly 30, but like, yeah, this is during the time where like dragons were super. Not 30, maybe
Well, that
100
seems to be
years.
the magic number because I mean that was the number that jumped from Empire Strikes Back, or I'm sorry, Return of the Jedi, all the way to The Force
Yeah,
Awakens.
yeah.
Which, by the way, for those of you who are wondering why I'm in an extra weird mood tonight, busted out the Broken Skull IPA, found one, cheap plug.
Nice.
Hit up Stone Cold. Tag if you're on Twitter. Share our podcast and hit
That'd
him
be
up on
awesome.
Twitter and
That'd be freaking
see if we can get a
awesome.
sponsorship.
Dude.
So
Hell yeah.
So just to clarify, JR screwed
Mm-hmm.
up. No, I'm just kidding. I went back and I read it because I was like, God dang, this just. I remember I did it. Was like we did the reaction to
Okay.
Hawkeye. I think on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
No, on Thursday. I think it was.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. And I was like, God, why they've done trailers and I mean that's the big push for 2022. Why would they cancel it? So I went and Googled it. I'm like, we're gonna have to do a retraction on this. Not that anyone would really care. I mean, just if anything, we should have left it up and let people roast us in the comments. With that said, my friend, let's move on to, as they say, the meat and potatoes. Let's get into the Spider-Verse. This past week, one of the biggest comic book conventions in the world outside of San Diego is Comic-Con, is CCXP, Comic-Con Brazil, basically. It's a multi-genre entertainment and comic convention. And it was, I believe, done mostly virtual this year. And let's get into the stuff that was announced first. Out of nowhere, unexpectedly, we get a trailer for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel to the Academy Award-winning animated feature featuring Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen. Came out a couple of years ago. This is the much anticipated sequel, and of course, we found out that it's not just one movie. It's at least one of two movies. We got a sneak preview of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, which featured a scene that between Shamik Moore and Haley Steinfeld. Of course, they play Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy, respectively. Gwen Stacy, aka Ghost Spider or Spider-Gwen. Now, there was some action sequences, some little snippets of it, and we got to see what we all expected based on the last scene of the movie. Of course, the post-credit scene where we saw the one of the all-time favorite Spider-Man variants, and that is Spider-Man 2099 with the famous blue and red costume, kind of reverse. And of course, if you're wondering who did the voice for the one scene of Spider-Man 2099 in Into the Spider-Verse, that would be the great Oscar Isaac, who of course will be playing Moon Knight and also plays Poe Dameron from the Star Wars series. He will return to voice Spider-Man 2099 in the movie and is set for a theatrical release on October 7th of 2022. JR, did you see this coming, and what did you think of the teaser for Across the Spider-Verse?
It was a great teaser, man. I didn't expect it to see it. Like, I would think that I think I was expected to see it more so sometime in 2022, honestly. But like, that was just a great little thing they did. It made Spider Monday. I think it was released on Spider Sunday. I think they actually they quoted a day. I think, if I remember correctly. And yeah, that was amazing. It was cool. It was great. It was fun to see a more distinct visual style. I will say that it doesn't look tremendously familiar from the original Into Spider-Verse. It feels a lot more. It still very much kind of it feels like that whole comic book-esque type of feeling, but like it's a lot more distinct in a certain sense. Like once you see the trailer, I'm pretty sure a lot of people who have seen the trailer, I think if you go back to watching the original Into the Spider-Verse, which everyone should, it's a great freaking movie.
A great film.
Great freaking film. It looks quite different. You know, not quite different, but like it's once you pay attention to it, like okay, it's a little bit different here. The lines look a little bit different. It looks a bit longer, right? Granted, they could just point up to like just saying that, oh, Miles is older, Gwen is older. You know, the style is amazing. It just the whole conversation between the two kids being kids, and that amazing scene of them just going out and just or just seeing Miles being hurtled through what looks to be the multiverse.
Yes.
It looks really freaking great, man. It looks really, really good. I will say the dialogue is what I expect from Into the Spider-Verse, especially the cast. I love Haley Steinfeld. We all know this. I'm really, really rooting for a live action version of Miles, and I'm hoping I get to see a lot of Shamik's photos. I think I've seen maybe one or two of them during that time you went to when I did. Just for reference, guys, I did my first viewing of Into the Spider-Verse was actually when they showed it in Palm Springs with
Oh, that's right.
with the actor who played the father, Miles' father of the film. He was there, and so he was saying questions. And I think they showcased one picture of Shamik like early on, and I think like, dang man, if he was a little bit younger, or if he was basically younger and just played Miles in live action, I'd be happy with it, man. But like, it was great. It was good. I was hoping
he's
but
trying to do quick math here. He is 25 years old.
25.
So
which isn't that it was around the same age as or nearly around the same age as Tom. I think Tom is like maybe like 1 to 2 years younger.
I'm looking at a picture from his IMDb page, and if you were to put this guy into a live action, based on this picture, he looks old. I mean, not old, like he looks like he's in his 20s. There's no way he could pass for a teenager.
Yeah. So
but seeing him on a scene or something like that, maybe I'm like, maybe. So I don't know.
Yeah, he looks looks like a veteran. I'll say that.
Yeah,
a veteran actor type of thing, and to play someone who's supposed to be 16, 17 years old, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to do so. Granted, I'm pretty sure I'm actually looking at pictures now. You can make him look a little bit younger, I guess. It's just more so the voice is so recognizable. I would love to see him in some version of the film, of a live action film.
Here's the question: you made a great point, JR. Right at the very beginning, I wasn't expecting this. Now, okay, so maybe Sony had something up their sleeve. They had a special panel set up for CCPX or CCXP. I'm sorry.
Yep.
But why? Why remind us of the Into the Spider-Verse film franchise just a week and a half before we get to see No Way Home? I'm wondering why. There is rumor going around that not only are we going to see Tom Holland, not only are we going to see Andrew Garfield, not only are we going to see Tobey Maguire in No Way Home playing their respective Spider-Mans, but there is a possibility that we will see the original TV Spider-Man, the original live-action Spider-Man from, I think, back then, like in the 1980s. But also, we will be seen stepping through the animated multiverse and into the live-action multiverse. We will be seeing Shamik Moore or someone playing that version of Miles Morales from Shamik's from that Spider-Man universe. And that would be freaking nuts.
That'd be awesome.
That might be a far reach, but there's a lot of people saying that we might not get Toby, we might not get Andrew, we might get other Spider-Men, we may get more Spider-Men than we actually anticipated. We may get Spider-Man that we've never seen before. So I honestly think with the success of Into the Spider-Verse, I think the obvious success we're going to see with this series going forward, because there is, of course, a Spider-Gwen spinoff starring Haley Steinfeld in the works. I think it's a far gone conclusion that we're going to see Miles Morales, and maybe that's what we're going to see with this second trilogy. With that, Amy Pascal, of course, the head of
Sony.
Sony Studios,
Yep.
is trying to do, and that is creating a second set of trilogies. And Tom Holland has come out and said that he's not completely against the idea. Kevin Feige is like, hey, one step at a time, because he loves being that architect. But I think it's a far gone conclusion. We are going to see Miles Morales in some form of fashion in live action. He technically exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe main timeline, the Tom Holland timeline.
Yeah.
And that is just through reference. We know that his brother, or his uncle, Uncle Aaron exists. He makes mentions that I've got a nephew that lives in this neighborhood. In one of the outtakes, he mentions he's actually on the phone talking to hey, Miles, I'm not going to be home right away. So he's there. Maybe it wasn't in the final cut, but Miles is there. What do you think? Do you think maybe we see more than the three Spider-Men?
At this point, I like to keep my expectations low. Yeah. Like it's already too sky high for to still.
I know
for the expectations of the whole thing. It's just more so like we can. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a Mephisto line there somewhere. Like I'm pretty sure you said Mephisto line. I'm pretty sure there's a theory somewhere thinking that there's Galactus gonna show up too. I'm like, it's to the point where like it is gonna be expecting way too much for something that hasn't even come out yet. And like I'm at that point now for me. I'm like, all right, cool. Let me just calm it down for me, because like again, I don't want to come into it, all episode all Last Jedi, you know. There's been high expectations for since there was high expectations definitely for a new for A Force Awakens, right? And that came out like, oh cool, it's somewhat akin. It's basically a retelling of episode 3, right? No, episode 4, right? It's basically retelling, just damn near beat by beat retelling episode 4. So at this point, I'm like, cool. You know what? Let me just let me keep my expectations low, because one, it's definitely a franchise I love, definitely a superhero that I love, and I'm already expecting possibly at least two Spider-Mans to come through. I'm possibly expecting someone else that that might be teased to come through as well.
And we'll talk about here in just a minute.
We'll talk about in just a minute as well. And so I'm like, for me, man, it's coming out in a couple of days. It's coming out in a week or so. Let me just wait until I see it for myself, and not get down on the things that I thought were coming and didn't show. So and so definitely, I mean, like if Marvel expectations as of late has shown us anything, Eternals.
Did you finally see Eternals?
I watched bits and pieces of it, and I don't want to watch the rest of it.
I enjoyed it. I do see where the complaints are. We will inevitably do a Eternals breakdown when it does hit Disney Plus sometime later on this month. Real quick.
But again, just finish my point. Just wait until it comes out, because there's already way too much, right? There's already way too much fan theories of everything else, high expectations, like clickbait shit. Like I was clickbaited into Game of Thrones being canceled. So that, right? Yeah. So let's just, I'm gonna just chill out for myself and just, wait once I can see the movie in about 2 weeks, because I know damn sure I didn't get to buy my freaking tickets for the first showing. So,
speaking of potential clickbait, but anyways, this kind of ties into the next story. A tidbit: Sony has re-released the video game trailer of Spider-Man Miles Morales. Also, some new that the Sony is working on a competitor against Microsoft Game Pass, with Sony giving it the codename Spartacus. So there's a chance that we are going to get a PlayStation version of a quote unquote video game Netflix, so to speak. Real quick, also for those of you who have the Miles Morales, let me see if I get this right. I want to make sure I find this story correctly. There was a Oh, you know, I may have found it maybe from a different source. Basically, I think if you have a version of Spider-Man for PlayStation 5,
Mhm.
is like the ultimate edition. It was Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Yep.
There is there's a download. There's a DLC that's now available where you can download 2 of the suits from
That's right.
the No Way Home
Yep.
collection. So that is
Mm.
available as well now. Real quick, there's also a rumor going around that the version of Spider-Man from the video game, the 2018 video game from PlayStation, that version of Spider-Man also might appear in No Way Home, but I think that is a reach and a half. We'll
Mhm.
just have to wait and see again when that movie hits theaters on December 17th.
Mhm.
Now, tying into Spider-Man No Way Home. Massive news.
Mhm.
Massive news. This came out, I think, let's see, the story dropped. It doesn't even
Earlier
give it a
today.
time. Earlier today. Came out today.
Yeah.
Okay. This is breaking news from, if you haven't already read it, but it's breaking news right here on PS Comics I Love You.
Mhm.
Kevin Feige, the boss,
Yeah.
the Godfather, the MCU, the president Punisher of the Marvel Studios. And when I say
Mhm.
that is because there's a great meme that I think it was Boss Logic created, and it was Kevin Feige dressed up as the Punisher, but with his ball cap. You know, it says Marvel,
Mhm.
has the Marvel Studios ball cap, and
Mhm.
he has like a full on like ridiculous Punisher sized gun,
Yeah.
and he goes, Kevin Feige looking for spoilers. Well, the man, the myth, the legend, the godfather of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the head of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, announced today, spoiled it himself, announcing that Charlie Cox will be the Marvel Cinematic Universe officially on the
Mhm.
big screen or possibly the small screen again. The Marvel Cinematic Universe's Daredevil, the band without fear. Here's the quote from Cinema Blend interview. Quote, if you were to see Daredevil in upcoming things, Charlie Cox, yes, would be the actor playing Daredevil. Where we see that, how we see that, when we see that remains to be seen.
Mhm.
So he has, in the past year or so, gone on record and saying anything that happened in Marvel television, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, Cloak and Dagger,
Yeah.
The Runaways,
Yeah. Mhm.
all the Netflix shows,
Yeah.
they're not canon. They're not officially Marvel Cinematic Universe. JR, well, at least I don't speak for JR, but I'm speaking for myself. Guys, they exist. Sorry. But Charlie Cox will return as the man with no fear. When will that happen? Don't
Mhm.
know.
It's
There's a
insane.
possibility that he could be showing up a lot sooner than you think. And maybe earlier than December 17th.
Mhm.
Go watch episode 3 breakdown of Hawkeye. Just saying.
And also, guys, if you want to hear more ASMR from Kevin Pillow, just let us know as well.
What is it? ASMR? What?
ASMR. It's auto sound something for your ear. So yeah, just the vibration in your inner ear, those hairs they get vibrated, and so yeah,
Sorry,
that's
I like to accentuate certain things. Anyways, uh, again, I think JR. I think that the devil, no pun intended, the devil in
is it the
the
details?
the
Yeah.
devil in the details is where we see that, how we see that, when we see that remains to be seen. I think that Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, aka the Man Without Fear,
Yeah.
we're on the precipice of seeing that universe in the main universe. I think
Yeah.
we saw a teaser of it in episode 3 of Hawkeye. Again, go back and listen or watch that episode. If you're
Yep. You
watching,
should.
just scroll up a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, could he show up on Wednesday?
I'm pretty sure, dude. I mean, I'm pretty sure we broke that, or at least I theorize. I don't know if one of us theorized it. I think it's me. Not saying I'm not taking ownership of it. But be a spoiler alert for those
If
for
you
those
haven't
who
watched episode 1,
Yeah.
2, or 3 of Hawkeye, shame on you, but spoiler alert.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be quite honest with you, we theorized that the Hawkeye show, of course, is basically just Marvel, putting on a pedestal people with disabilities, right?
Yeah.
People, and how there's been this recent there's recent resurgence of like wanting people to be truly represented, right? And one of the biggest concerns from Marvel fans, or just people in general, about Marvel is that they don't have a lot of heroes with disabilities. Well, first thing we have is that we have Hawkeye, original Hawkeye, have a disability. He's deaf in 1 year. He's hard of hearing. One of the
Well, in
spoiler
the
alert.
comic books, he's full-flown deaf in one of his ears.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. One of the upcoming actresses, anti-hero villain right now, Echo. Which, great nod. I forgot to point this out in the original series, in the original recap episode, is that when her father, spoiler alert, when her father dies, and he basically kind of semi grabs her face, right, and blood smears across her face. That's a nod to her comic book version, because she has a handprint on her across her face. I forgot to point that out. It was my bad. But Echo is blind and mute now
in the comic books.
Yeah, in the comic
but
book.
She's not blind in the TV show. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
That we know.
Actually, no. She's not blind in the comic book. She's mute and deaf. Sorry, I apologize again. It's been a night. It's been a night. She's blind. She's deaf and mute in the TV show. And like, what better way to showcase another blind character, blind superhero,
one of the ultimate handicap characters.
Yeah, I mean, the handicap is for everyone else fighting them. Honestly, if you want to be honest, the handicap is for everyone else fighting them.
Pretty much.
That's the handicap.
Matt Murdock is a badass.
Yeah, Matt Murdock. Like, what's the best way to show a character is display them in quite literally the show for that really showcases people with disabilities. Hawkeye.
Like, real quick, a point that we missed out, and by the way, we still highly recommend going back and watching or listening to episode 10 of season 2, and that's where we review both episodes 1 and 2 of Hawkeye. One of the things we failed to mention, JR,
yeah,
and I thank some eagle-eyed, or dare I say hawk-eyed, watchers who pointed this out of Hawkeye episode 1. Do you remember? First off, did you ever see Daredevil season 3 on Netflix?
On my to-do list.
Okay. Well, again, see the letters below. Spoiler alert. Go with me on this one. In episode 1 of Hawkeye, we see Kate Bishop and her family go to a benefit at a hotel. It is a famous landmark in New York City. It is the presidential hotel. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
In season 3 of Daredevil on Netflix, we see the presidential hotel in a major part of the storyline in that show. And that is when it is convinced that Wilson Fisk needs to be removed from prison and put into house arrest. What does he do? He is put into the presidential hotel. What does he eventually do? Again, spoiler alert. He buys the damn thing. So in canon, if you're one of those people that say technically the Netflix stuff kind of exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so if that be the case within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, owns the presidential hotel that Kate Bishop's mother rents out for her benefit in episode 1 of Hawkeye. Coincidence? I think not. That's why I think the Kingpin of New York is among us in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But we'll wait for episode 3, of course, be on the lookout for a recap of episode 4 of Hawkeye. We have seen only 2 versions of the Man Without Fear in live action form, JR. And that, of course, is Charlie Cox, and of course Ben Affleck, who, bless his soul, he tried. You and I
Yeah.
both collect Daredevil comics. Could you think? I mean, fan casted. Is there anybody else out there that could play the character better than Charlie Cox has?
It's hard to do so now. I mean, we could possibly put some people in the hat, but like as as somebody who as someone who's already basically just gone through the fires, quote unquote, right? It's harder to try to dissuade me or any fan right now to think that someone else can be better Daredevil than Charlie Cox. To be quite honest with you, I mean, like I already have seen some. I already have seen some fan castings of him, right? And some of them are cool. I think I forgot his name, but Clint Eastwood's son, who has been
Ooh,
they
okay.
people said him, but but they also said that he should be Wolverine as well. And one of the biggest determinants is that the dude can't really act, right? And his fight scenes are kind of questionable. And so you put that with the fact that Charlie Cox actually has hand-to-hand combat, has trained in hand-to-hand combat multiple times, is definitely athletic as hell. He has backgrounds in basically everything he's been doing, right? He can be gritty.
Yeah.
He can play all these roles already, and so like it's hard for anyone to dissuade me in particular to think that he's not Daredevil. He's not my Daredevil. Like it'll be the same thing for saying that, like, all right, cool, pick out a better Spider-Man than Tom Holland right now at his age.
I can't think of anybody
I'm saying. So
because
it's
Tom
like,
Holland is a great actor
yeah,
who is in his 20s, so he's mature mentally,
yeah,
but can still act his way down
yeah,
to a 16 or 17-year-old kid.
yeah.
Real quick, rewind, and we'll end on this.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, I mean, what better way to end than Charlie Cox finally coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Great.
When we don't know, wink.
Mm-hmm.
Going back, talking about just that, let's talk about two things came about from this CCXP panel. One was 3 massive villains sat down with one another to do a great panel. The other one was a couple more trailers were released, and we finally found
Yeah,
out that actually from Tom Holland himself in this virtual panel was it answers the timeline of where Peter Parker is in his life. And we do know that No Way Home takes place in the aftermath of Far From Home. Far From Home happens post blip by
yep,
just a few months, and it was assumed that based on Homecoming, where we thought he was a freshman or a sophomore, it looks like he
yeah,
was a sophomore because we're going to see freshman year in animated form. So he
yep.
was actually a sophomore. We thought then that Far From Home was him as a junior. It's not. We find out now Far From Home, actually, he was a senior, and No Way Home is his freshman year in college. So
College,
we
yeah,
found that out from one of these panels. The other thing we found out from these panels was we got to sit down with Jamie Foxx, Alfred Molina, and the great Willem Dafoe. And by the way, yes, they do look older,
yeah.
but I'll tell you one thing. I want to know what Willem Dafoe is doing, what blood he is drinking, because the guy is an ageless vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And other than a little extra weight like
Wrinkle
some
here
of
and there.
us,
Yeah,
Alfred Molina still looks pretty great, and Jamie Foxx, just
dude, black don't crack, bro.
dude is going into the grave jacked.
Dude, the black. Well, granted, too, he's supposed to he's set to play Mike Tyson in a biopic. Mike Tyson.
Oh,
Yeah,
damn!
yeah. So like the reason why he needs to get bigger,
He needs to
obviously,
get
because Mike
bigger.
Tyson he needs to get bigger, but like
He looks
it's
jacked
jacked up.
for.
Yeah,
He did make multiple references that to sign back onto this movie. He told Amy Pascal, "I will not be blue."
yeah.
And so,
Like it was just great because like I just come on, man. I think the Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man series was definitely mismanaged, and I
it
feel like
was
I'm definitely on his side now because he's the main reasons why he definitely wanted to be Peter. He wanted to be Peter. He wanted to be Spider-Man. He's a Spider-Man fan, and he's been noted multiple times that the studio has screwed over the filming, and so I'm kind of on his side at this point. I'm like, dude,
here.
it would have been awesome to have
I
Andrew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm halfway done watching Amazing Spider-Man 1 again with my
Yeah.
son, who's never seen it. We finished watching the first the Sam Raimi trilogy, which was good. 3 was not great. 3 was not nearly as bad as people wanted to make it out to be. There was promise with that version of Venom. Probably needed to wait a couple more films. Now, mind you, but you don't realize Sam Raimi was willing to do, I think, up to like 6 movies.
Yep,
just at his pace. Sandman was good. I hope he comes back. But ASM 1 was good. For those who don't know the backstory about ASM and why it happened, and why JR is absolutely correct, it was mismanaged because it was fast forwarded. Literally the night that Marvel was to regain the rights to Spider-Man for multimedia purposes, someone turned in a script to Sony to greenlight a Spider-Man movie. And that was the rule. They had like on June 1st, 2009, you need to have a script in, or it reverts. No money will be exchanged. It will just go right back to Marvel Studios. Well, actually, there was no Marvel Studios, I think, at the time, but they will go right back over to Marvel. And literally at the 0 hour, they turned in a script, greenlit the film, and we're off to the races. Casted, and I remember seeing the original trailer for it and went like, dude, we're getting another emo Peter Parker. And it wasn't. ASM 1 wasn't half bad.
Andrew Garfield was a Zoomer kid before Zoomer kids came to be. To be honest with you, he played a better Spider-Man than Tobey, and I love Tobey. Absolutely, like the definitely the zingers and being the one-liners came from definitely was Andrew's side. It's just more so for me. Yeah, I was definitely Andrew's side. Now I was saying like that the studio kind of screwed him in the casting over, because like just of how much they wanted hands-on approach. And so I definitely view Amy Pascal in that negative light. I definitely view that. And so like it would be awesome to see Andrew Garfield continue his role. Hopefully want to continue some form or some role in being an older Spider-Man. Granted, he is like 35, I think. 35, 34.
And I know that they would he can still play the role of the Spider-Man that we saw in like 2015, 2016 in the comic books that bought out Stark Industries and bought out Stark Tower in the comic books and try to create Peter Parker Industries.
Yeah,
I'd be
okay with that.
Yeah, because let's put it this way: Tobey played the nerd perfectly.
Yeah,
he was the just the that part, because you got to think there's multiple facets to playing Peter Parker.
Yeah,
he has to be that total dweeb, and Tobey nailed it. He was also kind of a smartass, and it wasn't like in a cool way. He was a smartass. And Andrew Garfield played that, and he played the science version. Though Tobey had his science nerd moments, I think Andrew was the scientist better. He was the engineer better. And then you have the more, I think, a more grounded Spider-Man in the form of Tom Holland, and kind of a best of all worlds. He's quippy. Now it's writing, he is a total tech nerd. Him understanding the multiverse before the multiverse, that moment right there where he first interacts with Mysterio and Maria Hill and Nick Fury, and talks about the multiverse. And I was like, and Mysterio goes, "Don't apologize for being the smartest guy in the room." That was the moment where we're like, that's Peter Parker. Or at least that part of him. And that's where I think Tom Holland became that part of him.
Easily. It's definitely, I would love to see that back. And to try to circle us back into going back to, of course, to Jamie Foxx, man, just like, dude, like when you have one of the at the time, the hardest working people in the business being Jamie Foxx. I mean, like the
Yeah.
dude has done absolutely everything, right? He's been
I don't think he stopped working since he did that movie with Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. I forgot that movie too. I just tried to
Collateral?
Yeah.
Collateral Damage. Collateral Damage.
Oh,
Or
no,
something like that.
no, yeah. Where he's the one that played the taxi driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It was a
Tom
good
Cruise played
flick.
It was a great flick. It was a great flick.
Tom Cruise played a bad guy.
Yeah, it's great. It was awesome. It was definitely something different. But yeah, just seeing him back in it, just seeing, oh my god, dude, Jamie Foxx doesn't look like he freaking aged one freaking bit,
No,
man.
he has not.
Oh my god, dude, I gotta say, man, it's not gonna sound racist, but it's gonna sound stereotypical. Dude, black don't crack. It don't. It
You can
don't. He
say
don't
that.
look like he aged. It looked like he doesn't age, man. It's fucking phenomenal, man. And so, yeah, I'm happy for it. The whole panel was great, man. Them talking about times like how and how again technology has improved and has jumped leaps and bounds, and how it's it's not a hassle for any of them to get into suits anymore, and how Jamie Foxx said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna be wearing blue anymore. I'll be wearing something that fits me and something that looks more akin to like what I would look like, and not this god tier freaking character that Sony put out." Jesus Christ, man, I'll great.
Again, sidebar. I'll be quick. The version of Electro we got in Amazing Spider-Man #2 was almost there. You know, he basically been like his whole body was one gigantic power ball, electric ball. In certain versions of Electro, that's kind of what he is. I just think that they needed to take that and tweak it a little bit more, and I think that's what we got with this version that we've seen in the trailers now.
Yeah.
I will say that the common thread amongst the three of them was we see the past is recognized, but with a little new.
Good.
So I think two things that I was astonished by was like JR mentioned, Willem Dafoe talking about doing the body scan rather than a mold like they used to, doing a full body scan and being able to put the costume on, and it wasn't as snug as they said. I think the other thing too was I did not know that Sam Raimi used practical effects for Doc Ock's tentacles, that they were used by a puppeteer on set, and that these ones are fully CGI. And that Alfred Molina had to carry around the 4 tentacles that made up Doc Ock's costume. Great job.
Which is good now, because we want to. I think Alfred is like nearing 70 now too, so we don't want him to. So we don't want a very seasoned legend in Alfred Molina lugging around this huge ass thing with 4 tentacles. Like no, let's not have Alfred do that. Who might possibly be, and again, this is a theory, one of my theories, the upcoming possible iteration of mentor for Spidey. Who knows? Maybe a possible superior Spider-Man might be in the works too. But this time, Alfred's just be there and just have his own company. That's a theory out there. That's a theory that I would love to see as well. But hey, again, I'm trying to temper my expectations for the movie. But again, let's see, you guys. Let's go see.
And by the way, real quick, for those who watched that, and I know my daughter made a mention that it's like, why does Tom Holland sound like he's from England? Because he's English. He has an American accent to play Spider-Man. But for those who didn't know, all these years later, that Alfred Molina is also English, having been first introduced to Alfred Molina in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I assumed, based on his look, and his name is Alfred Molina, that he is of some kind of Latin descent, and he is not. His father Esteban was Spanish, and his his mother is Italian. So wow, Alfred Molina is a fabulous actor. Will go down as arguably one of the greatest comic book villains, if not one of the greatest comic book characters portrayed on live screen. I think that there's his portrayal in Spider-Man 2 as Doc Ock is
really freaking great.
Really freaking. I mean, he's up. I will say this right now. and we said this a couple of weeks ago too. Alfred Molina as Doc Ock is just as good as Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark.
Yeah,
I'll say it.
And quite honestly too, I think it was also, I forget where I read it, but he was inspiration for in going back to the Spider-Man games for the 2018 Spider-Man, where you have Peter Parker character working with then Doc Ock, Dr. Octavius. Like, for those of us who are old enough, I remember watching the original movies. He was a student. Peter was a student of Doc Ock, helping him, of course, try to make this new energy thing for the original movies.
No, in the original Sam Raimi movie you're talking about, he is actually a student of Dr. Kurt Connors.
That's right.
And Dr. Kurt Connors' best friend is Otto Octavius.
Yeah.
And no, but JR's right. In the 2018 video game, he is an intern for Otto's company.
Yeah.
And so he's working as an intern there. So there has always been kind of that mentorship, and there's a possibility that could end up being the case, that Alfred Molina might stick around and stay on this side of the multiverse. Or maybe there is a Otto Octavius somewhere out there in the main Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline. Remember, we have not been introduced to Norman Osborn in the main line. We have not been introduced to a lot of things in Spider-Man's timeline. We do know it's inevitable that we will be introduced to a version of Eddie Brock, and probably a version of Dr. Morbius sometime down the line.
Which I forgot too, because the Morbius trailer did come out too. I forgot to add that too. Oh, we'll talk about that eventually.
We'll get to that, because the Morbius trailer was really, really good.
Yeah.
We did get to see a sneak peek clip of the Morbius movie that's coming out in a couple of months. And I think too, we were talking about a couple of weeks ago about why Disney shuffled some of the movies, and I think Morbius might be too. And I think some of it has to do with DC's releases, and I think some of it has to do with them playing around with Sony. I think there's a lot of stuff that's coming down the pipeline that they needed to shuffle around, maybe for storytelling purposes.
I mean, come on now. It makes sense to have a vampire go against a vampire killer. Let's be honest, because Mahershala has been waiting in the wing for quite a freaking minute. So
how great would it be too if we do get to see that cartoon version of Miles Morales cross over into the main timeline? That technically means Mahershala Ali gets to play yet another
Prowler as well.
The Prowler as well.
Oh, man.
How sick with that? He'd be the first one to play 3 characters.
Yeah.
He'd play Blade.
3
mainline characters. Blade, Cottonmouth, and the Prowler.
Yeah.
Now, technically, like I said, we've already seen a version of the Prowler played, I think, well by not Danny Glover, but Donald Glover.
Yeah.
But how cool would it be to have Mahershala Ali come in and play the Prowler as a part of the multiverse? Guys, let us know in the comments below what you think. It is only going to get crazier from here, because we have got Spider-Man No Way Home coming out on the 17th. We have Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness coming out later next year. Then we've got Loki season 2. God knows what else we're going to get with this multiverse. What does it all lead to? We don't know. What is the big, quote, end game for phase 4? Let us know in the comments below. We do know there's a possibility. One of the theories going around with Hawkeye is we might find out who bought Stark Tower. Is it the Fantastic Four? Is it Kingpin? Is it Parker, a future home for Parker Industries? We don't know. The other thing too, food for thought, is what is in the watch? Why is the tracksuit mafia after the watch in Hawkeye? Could it be leading to something having to do with Armor Wars? We'll find that out hopefully very, very soon. But again, let us know in the comments below about what you think about the Spider-Verse, whether it's the Spider-Man video game, Across the Spider-Verse, or No Way Home. What are you more excited about? What are your theories? Who's coming from where, and what do you think about the news of Charlie Cox officially in the mainline Marvel Cinematic Universe, basically being acknowledged by the Godfather, Kevin Feige, as our Daredevil? Let us know in the comments below. JR, we did it. We did another live episode. We got a main episode done. It may not have been the one you wrote 3 weeks ago, but
like if history has taught me anything, especially with this podcast, stuff happens on a weekly basis. It just happens. Stuff drops at the last freaking second, and just screws up your plans. And nah, man, you talk about me today. So
JR hates Mondays. JR hates Mondays. Why not JR hates Mondays? Because trailers drop on Mondays, and JR goes, he's like that episode of Big Bang Theory with Sheldon where he just throws the script.
Yeah, that's dope, dude. Yeah. I've been working on. I had like 4 or 5, not 4 or 5. Like I had like maybe 2 or 3 scripts, right, that I've been playing out for the last like month, dude, to do on some of these. We're up to 10 episodes now, right, for the second season, and yeah, it's. I'm pretty sure like I rewrote 3 of those, like because of just things that dropped quite literally that hour. So that it happens. So you gotta roll with it, man. So I get it. So but it's been fun doing this, man. It's been definitely it's been a wild ride. Thank you for all those who commented. Thank you for all those who've listened to us weekly, hopefully, and just continue to help to support us, man. Just put a name out there and just ride his way with us, man. Thank you very much, guys. We are going to be back on our regular scheduled broadcast of watching the 4th episode of Hawkeye this week, which will drop on Wednesday. I will be probably watching it that early Wednesday. It's basically Tuesday night.
Yeah, some people don't have don't have those 9 to 5 jobs. But
no, I have what's it called? I'm an insomniac.
Yeah.
As of late, man. So I couldn't sleep. So that's the reason why we're having this show on a Monday. Well, granted, it feels like it's on brand now. I couldn't sleep for the last 2 days, and so I got some good sleep last night. So
there you go.
We're able to do this, man. So yeah.
Well, he is JR Cabacungan, at also not JR Comics 42. He is the Dark King, also known as DK. If you see it pop up there on the bottom, I am Kevin Pillow at Voice of Reason 23 on all social media platforms. By the way, there is our social media stuff right there. PS Comics I Love You on Twitter. PS Comics I Love You on Instagram. Facebook.com/PS Comics I Love You. PS Comics I Love You at gmail.com. Find our show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Anchor.fm, and iHeartRadio. And JR, it's been fun. Thank you for cranking us out at the last minute. Another job well done. And we will see you, ladies and gentlemen, on Wednesday or somewhere around there for Hawkeye episode number 4. It will be the bonus episode. And if you are looking for this episode, if you watched this tonight, thank you so much. I saw a few of you guys pop into the channel. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to listen to this, take it on the road with you on the drive to work, you can do so by downloading it on those aforementioned podcast platforms. Guys, thank you so much. And we will see you later. Be nice. Be a decent human being. Wear your damn mask. And as always, peace.